Yeah. Um, Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking time out to attend today's webinar on Indian architecture and Canadian wood. My name is Nirmala Thomas, and I'm the Director of Market Development at FI India. The webinar duration for today will be of 1 hour and 10 minutes approximately. FI India, like everybody knows, is also known as Canadian Wood, the crown agency of the Government of British Columbia in Canada. We are a non-profit organization with a mandate to educate and promote use of BC forest products in the offshore markets of India. British Columbia, as recognized, is a global leader in sustainable forest management. Canadian Wood in India has been actively promoting wood as a sustainable raw material in various applications in India through its 5 well-known and legally sourced species, namely spruce pine fir, Western hemlock, Douglas fir, yellow cedar, and Western red cedar. As everybody knows, for as long as one can remember, wood has been an indispensable part of architecture throughout history. Indian architecture and interior design have been long partial to wood for many decades. While new and more evolved construction materials come into play due to technology, the absolute charm, integrity, and versatility of wood still remains unchanged. Architects in India and abroad are known to have used wood in interiors as well as exterior application in most of their projects. Some of their work not only shows liberal use of wood, but also showcases wood as the hero of the project. In the light of this, what we have decided to do is take a look at some of the existing beautiful and creative Indian projects that show wood in all its glory. The many uses of wood, its durability, its timelessness makes it easy to incorporate into design plans. And added to that, when sourced ethically and responsibly, wood is a sustainable way to do up your interiors and exteriors, whether it's a commercial or a residential project. Without taking much of your time, I would now like to hand over to Peter Bradfield, Technical Advisor, FII, to formally introduce our guest speakers for the day and take this webinar ahead. Over to you, Peter.
Thanks, Nirmala. Thanks very much. Yeah, and welcome to everyone today for attending, and thank you for attending this webinar. Our first speaker today is going to be architect Ketan Jadkar. I think Ketan's been described as a born artist who is an architect by profession. He has over 27 years of experience in architecture and interior design. His tangential thinking and abstract approach towards design have won many accolades for his world-class interiors. I think as testimony to his success, Ketan has 45 international awards to his credit, including the prestigious Golden American Architecture Prize, New York, a Platinum A Design Award, Italy. I believe that was for a project he did in Bangalore. Designer of the Year Award in 2017 from World Design Consortium, Italy. And DAC has ranked Ketan in the top 5 designers in hospitality, travel and tourism design. And his passion for hospitality design has changed the outlook of the industry and placed India on top of the list in hospitality at the World Design Forum. So Ketan established Ketan Jadkar and Associates in 1995, I think here in Mumbai. He then rechristened that design studio as Studio K7 in 2004 as an amalgamation of young and dynamic entrepreneurs with a focus on innovative ideas and creating exquisite projects. It's my great pleasure to introduce Ketan Jadkar.
Thank you, Peter, for that wonderful introduction. I think I'll directly start with the presentation. So, like Peter said, we at Studio K7 we deal in 3 fields of creativity. It's architecture, interiors, and art. So basically, the commercial art, fine arts, and also the installation art. we have been doing a lot of town planning projects as well as the high-rise buildings, also the mixed-use architecture. But the main forte of our firm is always being the hospitality projects, and that's what I personally also like to get engaged more into it. So these are some of the standalone hospitality interiors, and what we like to do is to play with the original materials. I mean, the natural materials in its raw form, may it be the steel, or may it be the bricks, or maybe the metal in any form. Like you can see in the projects where we've also used the engine parts, which are the casted engine parts, which are cut down and used as a feature wall, along with the combination of wood. So it's basically we like to play with the texture of the material and the play of light falling on it.
Excuse me interrupting, Ketan. Sorry, I think we've lost your slide. At least I have.
The earlier one, or which one?
Yours. I don't know if it's just me, maybe not. But I had your.
Peter, it's visible.
It's visible. Okay, my apologies. Yes. Okay, thanks.
Ketan, please continue.
Yeah. So may it be we have gone to the extent of using the scrap papers, or using the raw material in its own form, like the cane sticks. That's been the forte of using the materials, or using any kind of texture in our interiors. Now, this project which I'm going to showcase is based out of Bangalore, where we have used Canadian wood, and it's called the Pellet Brewery and Kitchen. So the client wanted to serve variety of craft beers, also the variety of cuisine, or into the place of around 12,500 square feet of the enclosed space. And when we looked around the Bangalore, most of them, they had the beer garden concept. And the client was also insisting us to go for the beer garden concept. But since it's the enclosed space, we thought of coming up with some different ideas, and then we started searching for the local context. What we found is that Bangalore is known to be the IT hub of India, the South India, but very few people, they know that Bangalore is also the hub for manufacturing of wooden pallets. And that's how we took out the concept. And then we crafted the concept around we will be serving palette of craft beers and different cuisines. Now, if you see the whole space was a very linear kind of space because of the kitchens and the services. We had only the front linear portion left with us for the design. And that's how the design evolved. I mean, you have the entry on your right, then you'll have a lobby. We had a small retail because the client wanted to serve bakery and confectionery as well. As you enter into the space, you have an open kitchen. As you enter, you get the nice aroma of the food which is being prepared over there. And then you have a small PDR. And then the entire restaurant seating, followed by the bar area. And at the end, as a focal point, was the brewery. That's the whole plan. And then when we decided to use the name, the pallet, we actually wanted to use the used pallets or the new pallets, but we were not sure. I mean, we tried on the mock-ups, but we were not getting the exact quality, or we were not sure about the wood that is being used. And the restaurant industry, the hospitality being hygiene oriented industry, so we didn't want to take any chance. Also, the quality of wood, we didn't want to take any chance. So Canadian wood was the solution for us. We went ahead to use SPF and created the entire space. The whole space is wrapped around with the pallets. Like it's the basic concept, the use of pallets for creating the whole space. That's the lobby. You enter into the lobby and you have the pallets, the enclosure of pallets. It surrounds you, and then as you move inside, you have a open kitchen on your right hand side and the waiting on your left hand side, and then at the end, as a focal point, you can see the brewery. The small partitions, whatever, or the room dividers were also been used as the pallet, the use of pallet, and that's the PDR. Now, when we were working on this concept, we also thought of using it as a zero wastage concept. That's why, if you see, the decor is changed on certain walls, or the certain elements were added on the ceilings, so that there was actually no wastage in the wood. And that's how you approach towards the restaurant. Basically, it is a linear kind of a space. We wanted to divide it into, divide into various sections, and then these wooden pallet partitions and the column treatments, they came in handy. On the windows, there is again a treatment of the wood with the wastage of the wood, whatever was left over, and that's how you go into the brewery section. The highlight of the restaurant, that's the brewery. The ceiling at the center, you can see it's again the leftover from the cutting of the wood. And yes, the lighting plays an important role. And since we use it in the whole decor rotates around the pallet form, it actually has given us boon to design the lighting, the indirect lighting, as well as to create the feel of textures and patterns at various places. And like I said, we are into love of wood. I mean, we love using wood in our interiors, and that's how there's some of the projects we have worked on, not entirely with the wood, but yes, we can explore different kind of ceilings or the parametric forms in the wood, and it becomes very interesting as well as constructionally viable medium. Last not the least, this was the installation what we had done last year, which says that it's the throne to be dethroned. We humans, we think that we are on top of the world and we are the boss, but if we don't stop using plastic, if we don't stop using unnatural or the artificial things, the whole ecosystem will fall on us and we will lose our existence. It's high time that we should go with the sustainable, we should go with the ecological or the more natural materials, and live with the nature. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Peter.
Thank you, Ketan, very much. Yeah, very good.
Thank
you. Very interesting and informative presentation. Thanks so much. Just before I introduce our next speaker, can I just mention that you are welcome to, the audience is welcome to submit their questions throughout these presentations. I would ask you to please submit them on the Q&A tab rather than the chat tab. And we'll see if we can collate those questions while the speakers are presenting to us. And at the end, we'll have ample time for questions. So thanks for that. So our next speaker, let me introduce, please, is Cedar Talwar. Cedar Talwar is a principal of Studio Lotus, a New Delhi-based multidisciplinary design practice, which he co-founded with Ambrish Arora and Ankur Choksi in 2002. Spanning the domains of master planning, architecture, and interior design, the work of the award-winning practice is grounded on the principles of conscious design. This approach celebrates local resources, cultural influences, an inclusive process, and keen attention to detail. Cedar leads the architecture and master planning initiatives for the practice, working extensively on large-scale developments and with a diverse clientele. He's also an active member of the Indian Architectural Fraternity, regularly participating at trade events and conferences, and represents the practice on the global stage. Siddhartha also often serves as visiting faculty and juror at numerous schools of design and national competitions of note. So it's indeed my great pleasure to welcome Siddhartha Talwar. Thank you, Siddhartha.
Thank you, Peter, for having me over here. Let me just share the presentation first. Yeah. Yeah, when I was approached for this talk, I was wondering what exactly I can really contribute to this subject. So we had a series of discussions, and then I thought, let me try to put some of our works together, and in fact found some relevance of today's subject and henceforth. So these are some of the explorations in wood which we have been doing lately, in starting with interiors and now getting into architecture. We've been, as Peter mentioned, we've been always trying to use any material in its natural glory, and wood is a very important material where we can handcraft this material into our interior architecture, keeping some vernacular references in mind, becoming space dividers. These are some of the hospitality projects where we use wood as a feature. Again, Taj Theog, the mountainous area, has a rich character in turnwood. So we used a local wood and kind of converted again into a double volume space divider. A lot of ceiling was done in patterns in local wood. So is the flooring, being a mountain hilly resort. We've also tried exploring using again local acacia wood into our furniture pieces. So they become signature furniture pieces. It becomes a kind of carving into wood, and they become elements of interior spaces. This being again a boutique property in Chitrasagar. So it's a kind of a Nakashi work, which we call it, using local craftsmen. So the dialogue is between how much we can start working with the local craftspeople and engage them. That also becomes an important connector, and wood is a good example because there is so much rich glory of wood crafting in India, which we'd like to explore. Some of a more like a newly built farmhouse in Delhi, where the facade has these high double height wooden fins in a farmhouse. In fact, in this farmhouse, all the fenestration, glazing, sliding systems were made out of Canadian wood. And the facade also helps in cutting down the sun. It's a movable facade, keeping the sun angle in mind. Also adding a distinct kind of a feature to the elevation. This was, in fact, I remember the very first project which we ended up using Canadian wood. I remember must be almost, it's sad the hotel is not yet open, but I would say almost 8 to probably even 10 years back, when I remember Brian contacting me and we having this discussion on how to use wood, in fact, get deeper into Canadian wood species, how to, like wisely order it in a certain size and proportion, versus our notional way of, ordering teakwood logs and then cutting and chopping them at the side. Probably this was the first exposure how the wood can be engineered and in a way crafted into an interior space, and how can we really order. Transport cost came in. A lot of information insight we got while working with FSI at that point. And in this room, how the wood again has been used as glazing systems, as a shoji screen between the toilet and the washroom, becoming an element. This was Western red cedar, and with a lagdana finish, a natural French technique called shellac lagdana finish to give it color and hardness. And it was just one wood used all over the room, creating an attic as well. So these are some of the images of that room. This was about 7-8 years back. Again, we believe that we applied turpentine oil for coating, very water-based coating to make it more eco-friendly. This is the main project which I'm going to talk about more in detail. That's a villa in the woods in Uttarakhand, where it's a master plan development. It's a villa property, and we had to work in a specific way, which is why wood also became a very important characteristic of our building methodology. The site is about 88 acres in Matiyal, Jilling. And why I'm explaining this is like wood again being sustainably sourced, especially the Canadian wood. Even our project methodology, the way we take care of a project takes care of all the sustainable features and whatever parameters need to be built in. So we did our water analysis before getting into the master plan. These were the core assets of the project, what we had to entail. Apart from, we had to look at the hospitality place, apart from the villas, the residential villas which we have for sale. And we looked into rainwater strategy. We looked into how even the waterways management will be done. This became very core principles, guiding principles of the master plan. And hence the master plan was shaped. Like we plotted all the ridge lines and all the of the watershed, and all the villas had to be about 5 meters away. So hence the plotting of the villas came up, keeping in mind, how the water analysis. In fact, we created multiple check dams and the water table rose. I'll show you some quick images of that as well. Wherever cutting was done for the roads, we did bamboo reinforcement. The specialists came in from Nepal. And instead of, the idea was to use minimum concrete. And hence bamboo reinforcement came in handy to stabilize the cut edges. This shows over a period of time how the stabilization has happened from cutting to the greens. Our construction methodology came about when we looked at the terrains and how the different kind of villas would fill into different slopes. So the idea was to be responsive to the terrain, to build very lightly on that ground, not in a typical masonry concrete way, which most of the hilly areas are used to. And hence varieties of villas came up, from a gentle terrain where a plateau villa would sit to a very sharp angle where probably the seed of a woods villa came up because of the 45-degree slope, as you can see in the diagram on the right-hand side. And before we started, we identified what kind of wood, what level of metal, how will the engineering happen, how the detailing of the roof will happen. This is just showing that build-up. I'm not going to get more in detail. I can walk through this later, and these are the first imprints of how the plateau villa sits, how a terrace villa would sit. This is the woods villa, which got prototype and got made. I'll show you later. These are some of the interior views. Again, wooden rafters, glue lamp beams, slatted timber ceilings. All that was shown in the initial views. Obviously, being a hilly area, some amount of masonry, a lot of wood to add to the warmth and the charm of that place. These are the initial views. And again, a lot of craft elements of the local region was planted in. And then any typical project, we did a prototype of a structure. How would that sit? It's a bamboo woven structure. It's like a metal structure which is woven like bamboo, like how the bamboo weaving would give it strength. So this is made from tubular sections. The idea of making the structure was 100 mm tube, so that it's very easy to carry on the forest, on the hilly areas, not very heavy tubes, and it becomes very easy to make. And then the drywall system fits in, after the carcass or the metal frame is made. The footings were very small, 2 feet by 2 feet small concrete footing, so that it's a minimum kind of disruption to the land. The idea was the water to go through while this tilted typology came up. That's a detailed model on the side we identified. And as you can see below, it's just a small 2 feet by 2 feet concrete footings. And after that, it's a very dry construction made out of metal and dry walls. And that cladding was in natural slate from the region again, and Canadian wood. Some detailed shots. And these are the shots while the construction was happening. That's the metal framework in position with the dry walls getting positioned. And that's the views of the final villa where it sits within the trees. So that's why we called it a woods villa. You can see now very clearly how the metal kind of a woven framework is shown, which is exposed, it's not hidden. And then the walls are insulated, a double gypsum inside with cladding or paint inside, and outside shingle-like forms of the wood being used. That's a frontal view. This has just got completed 2-3 months back. We're doing some further optimization of the structure and the specifications now. That's the combination of local slate as shingles and Canadian wood as outside. The outside was Western red cedar. There's the south side with a small conservatory, the south court we call it. Even the boardwalk was made out of wood. A more detailed shot where again the external cladding in is Western red cedar. This is forest certified wood. We have written some spec on the right hand side where again the idea of using this wood is that it doesn't have really any further coating. We will leave it so that it gets a patina, like a gray like finish over time. So it is kind of a natural material which works as a self kind of a sealing kind of a system. All the jambs, as you can see, are made from Douglas fir with PU coating to retain the natural look of the wood. So probably the look of the villa will change after a period of time. That's a little more detailed shot. The main door again in Douglas fir, and then we can again do the local nakashi so that it gets that carved effect. Against the regular wood, we can add a bit of craftedness into the interiors. Again, the south court views, the view of the north court looking into the hills. More detailed shots of the inside where again the whole ceiling has been made out of Canadian wood, Douglas fir, I suppose, and the whole result was very rich. In fact, the whole cutting, engineering of the wood, the coatings applied, it gives a very rich look. Some inserts again in carved wood again, which is in progress, which is in process. And again, all wall paneling, ceiling in the tropical softwood, the Douglas fir. The doors were glue lamp solid doors. That's the view of the conservatory on the south side. Yeah, I guess these are the detailed images of the project which we just completed. Yep, thank you.
Over to you, Peter.
Yes, thank you very much, Siddhartha. That was a very lovely presentation. I love looking at the work you're doing up in that difficult terrain, and I think we'd like to talk about that later on at the end. We'll have a few questions, I'm sure. Thank you very much for that. And I think at the end, I think we'll perhaps summarise a little bit from each presentation and then ask some questions. So our third speaker is Sonke Hoof. Sonke was born, raised and educated in Germany. And he's an architect now practicing in Ahmedabad with an impressive body of work to his credit. Sonke trained and worked as a carpenter, I believe, before studying architecture, which formed his understanding of details and the sense for materials. I did note that Sonke's final year thesis at Stuttgart University was entitled Masala Housing, Recycled Materials in Indian Slums. I'm sure that research really elevated his sense for materials to another level. As partner at Vastu Shilpa Consultants in Ahmedabad, Sonke is working on various scales of projects ranging from residential to institutional. Together with his wife, Kushnu Pantaki Hoof, he founded Studio Sangha, a multidisciplinary partnership focusing on furniture and interior design. Also publications and curation of exhibitions and art shows. Sonke's work has been published nationally and internationally in many prestigious books and magazines. So it's my great privilege to introduce Sonke Hoof. Thanks, Sonke.
Hi, Peter. Thanks for introducing me. Hello, everybody. So I'll start with sharing my screen. Right. So I want to show one project where wood has been used a little differently than shown before. So it is a project here in Ahmedabad, small residential, which I have now been calling Black Perch. So the base of the project was an existing bungalow, about 30, 35 years old, where the clients wanted to extend their living space substantially, but they didn't have space to do that. So the approach we then chose to do is, since already all garden space was covered and there was one space left for us to think, okay, we could exploit that. And that was basically just putting the extension right on top, like perching on the building. And then we shaped out of that, like some garden space was also required, some terrace space. So we chopped out the courtyard on top, then started shaping these things to our requirement. And what then ended up was visually a very close box, but within very open. So we have only one thin black sheet on top, a black sheet at the bottom, and then black lures all around. So the center of the extension is one courtyard and then one living space with a kitchenette and a bathroom and guest room come study space is now added to the building, and all overlook that central courtyard, which is now on top of the roof. So what we exploited was that we had one flat part of the roof on which the main building sits, and then we have that sloped part of the roof where then a terrace steps down, which then connects to the neighboring environment. And the surrounding is entirely made of glass and is enclosed with black lures. So that is what it looks like. It's basically this alien black box which is hovering over the old extension. So the lures are movable. So, and one can either, depending on if you want to totally enclose yourself, also protect yourself from the harsh Ahmedabad climate, you can just close everything, or you can then open it up and really connect to the outside, or then let the outside connect to yourself in. So also some reference is there to the Ahmedabad pole houses, where a lot of wood is still used, which is something which I think is worth reviving, since a lot of wooden traditional architecture is there in the country, but has slightly forgotten. So I appreciate this whole effort of bringing back wood into construction. And in Ahmedabad, because of age, everything has blackened. So that is where I then picked up, and instead of blacking it in with paint or something, I thought, why not try a Japanese technique of charring the wood, which is called soi sugiban. And so we had some people who then tried it out. We did a lot of experimentation to achieve that finish which we wanted. And we basically just really torched the surface of the wood. So what it does is, for one, give, I mean, one is the finish which you want to achieve, that the visual finish, but beyond that, it also adds a protective layer around the wood. So you don't need to treat it any further. So that is the effect then. So we have all these charred lures on the outside, a black wooden structure, it's not wood, a black steel structure, and then everything around that courtyard. So we have, here one can see also that charring, it just doesn't really blacken the wood, it adds a little silverish reflection like in charcoal, which is very beautiful, because then depending on how the light shines on it, it turns silver. When the sun is setting, it turns bronze. So it's a lot of variation visually in that material as well. So which, yeah, it was a good discovery working with that, which I hadn't done before. So then, in contrast to all the black outside, all the other finishes which we're using inside is either white wall, but then a lot of wood inside. So the outside is charred yellow cedar, and all the inside finishes is white oak on the ceiling and the flooring. And the courtyard outside is also, it's oak, which is treated to withstand the weather. But so we have that contrast between the black outside and the very fresh, clean look from inside. So that is the study where you can see also that oak is also used in all the interiors, in the inbuilt interiors. And that is some, the kitchenette, some sitting on the side where again, oak is used. And the whole thing is accessed by a spiral staircase, which we added, which is also oak. And that from the top now brings connecting down to the main house below, which we renovated entirely in the course of the construction, where we now bring that wood, which has not been used before in the house. We bring that down into the entire house. So many of the areas which we now have in redone reuse that oak as well. So from the threshold, when you enter the house, it picks up with the oak, and then as you ascend, you follow basically that oak path up to the roof, where you then end up in that oak finished courtyard, which is open to sky. And yeah, so that is your destination, and it's a complete surprise because you don't expect what you are actually ending up there. And what also one thing is, because we are lifting above the line of visibility which was there before, that whole garden which is opposite, it's the playground of a school, is now visually entire yours. So we are sitting in that wooden box and opening up into that garden. So we are having basically a floating permeable box platform from where you can then enjoy your neighborhood. And though you're entirely in the middle of the city in Ahmedabad, it really looks as if you are sitting all alone in your private park, visually. Yes. So I think that's it. Yes, I hope you enjoyed it. Very brief, but I think it shows, because of the charring, that's a complete different use of wood, which was there before.
Yes, thank you, Sanke. Very nice, yes. Very nice. Yeah. Yeah. I very much enjoyed that. Yes, in fact, I enjoyed all of the presentations, and we finished right on time. So it means we have time for discussion and we have time for questions. We did receive a number of questions through the presentations, which I'll get to in a moment. I guess I took some notes. I guess, you know, what we saw featured there initially from Ketan was a big focus on interiors in the hospitality industry. He talked about, you know, sourcing Canadian wood in Bangalore, and I believe that it was a pretty short notice. So the availability of the wood was an important consideration, I think, for Ketan. He stressed zero wastage and sustainability, which is close to our hearts. It's a great concept and a wonderful adage. He also featured texture and lighting and recycling of wood. So that was a wonderful presentation, I thought, featuring hospitality interiors in the main. Then we went to Siddhartha, who showed us some wonderful projects in difficult terrain, you know, which really certainly features the lightweight nature of wood. The fact that we can in using wood, we actually create a very light footprint in what we're doing. So I think Siddhartha started with some interiors showing a use of room dividers, ceilings and floors, incorporating local craftsmen and carving. Some wonderful facades in Canadian wood, I thought. And yeah, back to the Uttarakhand project where, you know, site management was key, light footprint, the use of minimal concrete and the ability to use wood in that terrain and under those conditions, I thought was very, very important. And finally, moving on to Sanke, yeah, very imaginative and different use of wood, featuring this lightweight floating structure in an urban area. And not only that, but then charring the outside, experimenting to the point where, you know, you char the wood and you don't need to coat it. I thought that was brilliant. And again, you know, he featured white oak. Again, this is a hardwood species, but again, available from Canada. and a wonderful variety of species, I think, in the project. And the effect of it all was bringing the outside in and creating this floating space. So yeah, wonderful. I myself have got a lot of questions about those projects, but from the audience, you are getting questions about the first question, or a couple of questions referred to coatings, and probably I can address that one to Siddharth. Because we also get this question about coatings when you're using a wood externally, and certainly you've used wood externally extensively, Siddharth. Do you have any thoughts about exposure in India and how you protect the wood and maintain the wood, and what coatings you use?
Yes, we've been largely working on water-based coating systems rather than getting into silicone coating systems. So yes, there is a bit of effort and some exposure required in choosing the right kind of coatings. But yes, we do tell the clients and to use the best coating. And for us, over a period of time, these water-based polyurethane coating systems have worked quite well, and we try a lot of sample keeping the locations in mind, and I guess it's worked well for us till now. We haven't seen much of an issue as yet, especially in the hilly areas.
Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful to hear, because you're talking from a position of first-hand experience, and as I said, we do get a lot of questions about coatings, and I think the point we make, I agree with you. Water-based exterior PU coatings are wonderful these days. The technology is good. So long as they're properly done, applied well. Sometimes it's necessary to apply to all faces, not just the external face, I think. Then those coatings will last for decades, and they may require some maintenance, but it's only a fairly simple one coat maintenance after a few years, I think. So I trust you'd agree with that thought. Have you faced any maintenance issues on your projects?
Not really. Even the woods we have used otherwise, as I mentioned earlier, even the regular plank flooring has linseed oil, or you get into a tarpentine oil, like for interior work. Similarly for this, like we are yet to see like a season floor, or we have yet to cross, like this project in the hills got finished almost 6 months back, but till now we went back after 3-4 months. We've stayed there. We haven't seen any kind of till now we haven't seen any clients haven't come back saying there is a challenge. So client has stayed. In fact, on top of it, because the way the section of the wall was with insulation and double gypsum inside, and the wood, in fact, insulation has become very good. So in fact, use of heaters have come down. So even peak winters, he had a very comfortable stay. And the only thing he came back saying was, the way the structure and the wall section was. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Well, that kind of leads me nicely into some of the other questions that we received from the audience during those presentations. So we're really to do with the features and benefits of Canadian wood, and also the sustainability of logging. So it's a very broad subject, and I don't want to take up too much time speaking myself about those things. I think we can incorporate the answer into some of the points made for instance, by Ketan. Some of the features and benefits of the wood are its lightweight, the variety in colour, I think the ease of use. I don't know, would you like to comment, Ketan, on maybe one of the reasons that you're using Canadian wood? Is there something that's standing out for you?
Yeah, surely. I mean, I could see the questions popping up also about the costing as well. So yeah. I would like to cover that one also. So I think it's a misconception that you use the wood in so much of quantity, your costing will go high. It's not about using wood in the quantity, but it's about using the wood in the proper way.
Right.
Like I said, you can work on the zero wastage. It's your creativity, how you use the wood. The second one is about the maintenance, but I think like Siddharth also said, we have the water-based PU coatings, so maintenance is not at all an issue. And then it actually enhances the quality of or the texture of the wood. And yeah, so looking at all the aspects of using it in the interiors, I would say it's how creatively you can use the wood. That's more important.
Right.
And actually, it's not that expensive. We think that wood is expensive, but I think I've been working with Canadian wood for around 5 or 6 projects, but the client never complained about the overall costing. So
Yeah.
basically, the client also insists he insists on the cost per square feet. So like I said, if you use it effectively, your per square feet cost will always remain within the budget.
Yes, very good comment. Very good comment. You're right. We did see some queries there about price, and we see that a lot. And you know, FII has been doing a lot of work in the structural use of wood. You know, we've been building some display homes and like. And you know, I guess the point I try and make to people when they're asking these questions is it's all about design. It's all about good design. I mean, I don't have to say that to this audience really, but if the design is good and sound, then as you say, the wood, the volume of wood that needs to be used to create an impression, to create a result, is not that great. It can be a fairly small portion of a project. It can be used beautifully, as we saw in that project in Uttarakhand from Cedar. But you know, we use wood and stone and glass and steel all in combination. It's just a wonderful combination. So when you tally up the cost of the wood, it's a fairly small part of an overall project. And you know, with good design and imagination, I think we saw in Sonke's design, you know, where he creates such a beautiful floating kind of weightless add-on to a house. Again, a mix of concrete and stone and wood. I don't know. How did you feel about the costing, Sonke? You know, did you feel it was within reason?
Yeah, I think it was not really a problem. I mean, the quantity, as you said, is really limited. I mean, it's really concentrated only on the facade.
Right.
And there, if we see the cost of the people who then charred it, that turned out to be higher than we thought, because they were standing there forever charring that wood. So, but then it was not really a big cost factor in the overall cost of the house.
That's my impression also. And you're right, the coatings can sometimes add quite a bit to the cost. So I think charring is really nice. And I think you selected well with yellow cedar actually. For that purpose, it worked very well.
We tried on different wood, but for us, say yellow cedar worked out the best. We thought, and then also that we could source it kind of sustainably. That was also important to me, so that it's not ripped out of some forest, but it's like properly sourced.
Yes, look, it's a big question, and I think it's a very fair question. And as I said, I won't spend a lot of time on it here, but we, FII, Canadian Wood, we have so much information on the good management, good forest management, sustainability of Canadian species. You know, I can sum it up by telling you that over the last 30 years in British Columbia, we've enjoyed 0% deforestation, 0%. That means all that old growth wood that we're harvesting and we're using is replenished, more than replenished. For every tree that we harvest, we plant 3 trees. And the forest is managed extremely well, as dictated by the government. And so even in BC itself, we actually log less than 1% of the commercial forest. So this can be done sustainably. It can be done well. For those people asking questions about how, you know, you're logging trees from the forest, how can that be sustainable? Well, it certainly is, and it can be demonstrably so. So we're more than happy to just take that offline and follow up later on those questions. But I guess from my point of view, I'm really interested in your thoughts. I mean, obviously you're enjoyed using wood. Do you see that use of wood increasing? Do you see design opportunities? Maybe Sonke, you're there, so maybe your thoughts. And I'd welcome Ketan and Siddharth to also offer their comments. And what's your thought process behind using wood and using more wood, hopefully?
Yeah, see, and you mentioned initially my background really is carpentry before, so there's a personal attachment to wood. I do love the material because there's nothing like it. I mean, the way it feels, the softness, so if you want, sometimes it cools you, sometimes it warms you, so it's just so haptic, and working with it is such a joy. And where I come from in Europe, wood as a building material is really driving the industry right now.
Right.
So, and for a long time here in India, there's a hesitance once from clients. Everyone just is worried about termites and will my house be eaten away.
Yeah.
And so, and then also the craft had been forgotten, I think, to really how to build a wooden house. Okay. Because the industry was just not doing it. So now with players coming in to really promote that also, now even with CLT that we do really prefabricated solutions, which I hope will come, that will really make a big change to the industry, I think.
Yeah. Thank you. And Siddharth, I'm sure you agree. Your projects really demonstrate this light footprint, and you have to get materials to those sites. So, taking wood on a truck, it's a much simpler process than having to, deal with concrete and steel. And again, it's sustainable and it's natural and it looks and feels nice. So, you're really having such low impact on those forested areas where you're building these certainly that big resort that we saw. I'm sure that was an important consideration for you.
Yes, it is like wood. It's actually the overall project, which, the materials play a very important role. And then the kind of slopes we were getting over there, and if we were getting into a typical mode of construction, we couldn't have really built it. So it forced us to think about how to construct and then start looking at it as a kit of parts. So the idea now slowly is to look at the construction methodology as a kit of parts. And we are trying this actually in any context, whether it's hill or an urban area or a tropical area. The idea is to make it like a kit of parts, and that's what it is. A lot of effort and investment of time which we need to do, and to engage with the client and to tell him. So apart from the regeneration of the land and whatever we did at the master plan, even at the building level, like how this can be then replicated easily, and while, so all those things come into play, and materials like wood. In fact, as I mentioned earlier, when first introduction to FSI wood was through Brian, and at that point, again, we were in that time of just ordering logs, as you saying.
Yes, I remember.
To know how, how you can cut the wood, how you can, in fact, our size is dependent on the way, it can minimize the wastage from the other end. Yeah. So that again played a part in actually lowering the cost also. So in fact, we were then got into using those sizes only, which can reduce wastage and minimize the cost. So there is a back and forth happening at that level. It's just not using wood blindly. It is using intelligently, and it can play a big role going forward. As Sonke mentioned, while we are engaging now, even at a structural level, how to intelligently build, structures made out of full wood is something which is bound to happen. The kind of exposure and awareness we're getting now.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a big future for wood in structures, and in structural sense, and certainly in external finishes, decks, and claddings. Just leads me into another point. We did get a question about how the wood is treated. So all of the wood that's coming from Canada is actually kiln dried or seasoned. So it's ready to use. It's sawn lumber. It's all sized and graded, and so it's very easy to use. But what we also see is a growing interest in softwoods for furniture, for export certainly, but also for doors and door jambs and interiors, ceilings, room dividers. I'm wondering, Ketan, apart from in your interior work, are you finding any use for framing, for wall framing, for ceiling framing, for those kind of applications? And is it easier to use than perhaps aluminium or metal?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the wooden members, actually you get the flexibility, more flexibility while you use the wooden members instead of the metal ones. In fact, we have started using Canadian wood for the furniture, the loose furniture, the chairs, and all sorts of basically the hospitality furniture what we deal in, and found it more like I say, it's more easier because
easier to work.
Yeah, easy to work, and the texture which I want is perfectly there in these kind of woods. So yeah, definitely, it's nice wood to work with. Not only the furniture, like you said, the door frames, the ceiling members, everything is possible with the Canadian wood. And again, coming back to the question of using wood as for the interiors, that would increase your cost. But I would say if you leave these members exposed, that itself becomes the part of your design. So you don't need to treat it externally. To cover it externally. So automatically there you save on the cost.
Okay. Yeah. Yes. It's because of its you can make a feature of its natural look, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
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 Thank you. So we're covering quite a lot of ground here, and I would just like to add perhaps that two of the species that Canadian wood offers, and which you saw featured here, yellow cedar and western red cedar, I think important to note that these species are naturally durable. So actually they don't require any treatment. So when people are concerned about termites, we do have to be concerned about that. You have to take measures in the design to take care of termites. However, on the external part of the building or in decks, on decking and so on, we really need to use durable wood. So we have this yellow cedar and red cedar, which has been used extensively in these projects, I was pleased to see. Also, availability of wood. Canadian wood, we've been here for many years now promoting our species, and we're fortunately able to say that we have about 40 stockists across India. So I think that's important to know for architects and our friends here, our presenters. When they have a project and they need to source the wood at fairly short notice, you need to be able to look to a local wholesaler or stockist to be able to source that wood. And all 5 species from Canada are being stocked across India. So that is a very important point to make.
Peter, we just have the last 1-2 minutes to go. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think maybe we'll just finish up on the fact that, on the aspect of wood being eco-friendly, thinking about its life cycle analysis in relation to other products like concrete and steel and things that we take out of the ground. Its carbon footprint. I know that's very a subject dear to the heart of our younger people. I think we have a few students looking in today. I think it's very important. We very much support that point of view that we should be using sustainable, well-managed products, and minimising our carbon footprint. So I'm sure that all of our speakers, can I ask our speakers to pop up on the screen, please? I'd just like to say thank you so much for your presentations today. They've been really informative, all different, and wonderful to see, and generating a lot of questions. Any questions we didn't get to today, we'll be more than happy to answer. We'll collate them, and I think if they're specific to the presenters, we'll pass those along, and I hope you won't mind following up with those questions. Maybe I can hand it back to you, Nirmal, just to finish off. But thanks for a very entertaining time, you guys. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Peter. I think it was indeed a very informative and engaging Q&A discussion. I think we all can agree, including the attendees, that today's session was extremely knowledgeable and allowed us to view some of these wonderful projects with wood in different applications as presented by the esteemed panelists. On behalf of Canadian Wood, I take this opportunity to personally thank each of the panel members for showcasing some of their beautiful works. Architect Ketan Javdekar for the very happening Pellet Pub and Brewery project, winner of the A Design Award. Hope Ketan will extend us a courtesy invite to all present here for a mug of beer. I hope Ketan does that. Architect Siddharth Talwar for the beautiful villa project. Really amazing to see it go live. Architect Zonke Hu for the gorgeous Ahmedabad residential project. And a big thank you to Shraddha and Viraj at FOAID for partnering with us. I know there will be many questions that remain unanswered today. However, I think we will try and capture all these questions as raised in the Q&A panel and document the same. If these questions are addressed to any of the architect and panel members, we'll forward these questions to them, get their replies and send reply back to you via an email in a few days' time by our business development team. If you still would like to know more about Canadian Wood, please do not hesitate to reach out to us by visiting our Canadian Wood website or contacting any of our business development managers. They'll be most happy to assist you. After the webinar, you will receive a survey link from us, that is from Canadian Wood, sent directly to your registered email ID. Request you to kindly fill in the feedback form and share back with us. Feedback and suggestions are most welcome. Once again, thank you for attending and thank you, esteemed panelists. With this, we end the session for today. Thanks.
Thanks, Sanke. Thanks, Ketan. Thanks, Siddharth.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Ketan.
Bye.
Thank you, Sanke. Bye. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Nirmala. Bye.
Bye.